Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Brushes and Bunnies, and in this video we're going to be doing a different variation of the Sketch With Me video that I did last week, and I'll be doing something called Paint With Me. I know, probably not that original, but I thought it would be a fun idea to try because I have been trying to practice with gouache for the longest time, and I kind of struggle with the colors and I struggle with composition, and you know, I just want to kind of like work on scenery and learn how to build backgrounds. And I thought it would be a cool idea to actually paint movie stills from some of my favorite films. For this one, I'll be focusing on the film Pride and Prejudice, and I know some of you have probably kind of collectively moaned when you heard me say that because it is kind of cheesy to admit that it is one of my favorite classics. I know, Jane Austen, but okay, hear me out. So the film came out in 2005. This was 15 years ago. And 15 years ago, how old was I? I was 13? Could it be 13? Yeah, I'm really bad at math, guys. But I was 13 years old. And I think it was one of those early films that I remember having a big impact on me. I love the cinematography of it, just the colors, the characters, the way that they told the story was very beautiful. It was also kind of funny, especially when it came to Mr. Darcy's character. The way that he was portrayed, you know, socially awkward, just filled with anxiety and like not really knowing what to say, was funny because it was relatable, and I did admire that part of his character and also of the story. And I do have to say that I do think that this film, amongst a few others, really helped to kind of kickstart my not obsession, but like my love for historical drama pieces, whether that's a film or television series and or a novel. When it comes to actually painting these illustrations, I did take a little bit of a different approach than I normally do. What I mean by that is I made sure that before I got started with any bit of the painting process, I made sure to have all of my paints already pre-mixed on my palette. And that basically included just kind of experimenting a little bit with the different colors and trying to get the proper tones correct before I applied them onto the paper. I also did do a bit of testing with the colors before just to see how, you know, the highlight, the midtone, and the shade would look and work together. I did that for the skin tone, and I also did that for the background with the greens. I also tried this time around to simplify, and what I mean by that is to basically just use the colors that I mix. So if I have a highlight, if I have a midtone and a shade, in that case, those three types of tones or colors, I will try to stick to as much as possible. Of course, I'll do some mixing in between, so mixing with the midtone and the shade, for example, just to kind of get that gradient effect. But I really wanted to simplify because I do have a problem where I overcomplicate things all the time. And the colors end up being a little bit muddy, especially when it comes to gouache. This is a pretty big problem because if you keep applying layer after layer, more color onto color, you can reactivate the layers and the colors will tend to blend in a little bit and get muddy. One of the best ways to avoid this muddiness early on is to make sure that you wait until the layers are dry before you add another layer of color on top. So, I mean, you can do this in two ways. The first, obviously, if you're waiting, you can wait it out. But, I mean, who has time to wait nowadays? So something that I would definitely suggest that you do is to invest in something called a heat gun. You can also use a hairdryer. But I mean, for me, it just got annoying just to kind of like carry it back and forth from the bathroom, and it's like, whatever. I mean, might as well invest in something that's actually meant for arts and crafts. So I did buy a heat gun and I really, really love it. It's more portable. You can see me use it in the video right now. It has kind of like a more precise nozzle on the end, and yeah, really, really hot air comes out from the tip of it and dries your paint very, very quickly. So I do use this tool in between my layers just to make sure that everything is dry before I add another layer of color. I did in the past, you know, kind of either not waited long enough and I would apply another layer and it would quickly reactivate the one below and colors would get messy all, you know, straight from the beginning. And yeah, I think a lot of frustrations with gouache does come from this this aspect in itself. So yeah, I think something that can help is just to make sure that everything is dry before you proceed. I did do 3 illustrations on this sketchbook page. The first one of Elizabeth turned out the best, which is why I chose to focus mostly on this one. I think that the technique that I used and the way that I painted is exactly sort of the direction that I want to get into. Kind of like a simplified illustrative sort of style, which I really love. The second one I did of Mr. Darcy in the upper right hand corner. I'll show it now actually. This is an example of me going a little bit too overboard and getting crazy with detail, and also an example of colors getting muddy. So I did not take the same approach. Somehow I have no idea what happened between the first and the second illustration. But yeah, I'm not going to show the process for this one because it was just, I don't know what happened. I don't like the outcome. I'll probably try to redo it. But yeah, so the third one that I'm working on is something that's a little bit ambitious for me, because I guess if you're following me for a while on Instagram and or YouTube, you'll know that I don't typically do either like illustrations or scenes of people per se. So, you know, having more than one subject in one sort of frame, or also working on specific backgrounds. Now, this image I did want to do of the sort of ball that they had in the film, and it was difficult because of the colors. First and foremost, there was lots of browns, lots of kind of beigey colors in the background, and again with gouache, my problem is that I tend to go a little bit too much and colors become muddy, and I really wanted to try to avoid this. I also wanted to kind of work on this sort of hazy kind of blurry background with the people in the background, so not give them too much detail, you know, keep the detail on the two main characters in the forefront, and the background have it kind of like a blur. So this was a challenge for me, and I do want to show this process, but I will be speeding it up because the video is already too long. As far as challenges go, this was definitely up there. I definitely had a problem with Mr. Darcy's face in terms of the shadows. Yeah, I'm gonna put the picture up on the screen so you can see which reference photo I was painting from. You can see that his face was in a lot of shadow, and I don't think I have the right tones and colors for it, which is why he turned out a little bit more orange than I wanted. And he also kind of like turned out to look like a caveman. I don't really know why. I don't know, but I did not do his face justice like I didn't do the second illustration justice also. So I seem to have a problem with painting men in gouache. I don't know. I think I just need more practice. Nonetheless, the importance was to finish the illustration, and that's what I did. I could have probably added a lot more detail near the end, but I was just tired of sitting down for hours painting on end, and I didn't mind the outcome too much, actually, not gonna lie. I think it turned out okay. Obviously anatomy-wise, things need to improve, and also just my gouache technique in general in terms of the shadows and shading of the face. That needs to improve. I know that. That's totally fine. But the point is that I am at least doing it and finishing an illustration. This is something that I like to kind of recommend to do when you're learning how to draw and or paint, is when you start something, finish it, because you do learn something on the way, and yeah, you'll be happy later on down the line when you have these sort of sketches and illustrations to look back on and be like, oh my god, like look how far I've come. So yeah, it's important to finish your drawings or illustrations and just to try to go with it as far as you can until you can't anymore, and you'll be surprised at the things that you can learn, and also yeah, you'll be grateful that you finished something.
I was so burned out trying to ease my mind like there was nothing left to save. I'll say it now. I can't sleep by. I'm trying to get away, but I can't find the last scattered pieces of my heart. Pieces of my heart. I thought it would be for the better, but I'm starting to feel so drained. And the days are moving slower, so on the weekends I escape. And on the surface it seems perfect, yeah, on the surface I'm replaced. But I go too far in my house of cards, every morning it's the same. I'll say it now. I can't sleep by.
I had a lot of fun doing this video, actually. I really enjoyed rediscovering some of the old films that I used to love watching and still do, actually. I also liked sort of the kind of studying aspect of it, where it allowed me to focus on, you know, the overall picture in terms of the colors, in terms of the background, incorporate a little bit more or different elements that I don't usually do in my drawings. So this was a really fun exercise, and I would recommend that you take it up, actually, and just try it out. It's a lot of fun. I'll probably do a lot more of these videos in the future. Also probably tackle some of my favorite television shows and like television dramas, I should say. Yeah, I think it's good practice and it's good fun. I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. Please give me a comment down below, give it a like if you wish, and yeah, check out my social media, Instagram, Facebook, down below in the video description, and I will be seeing you next weekend. Bye!